You're listening to the MindPod Network. This episode of the It's All Happening podcast is brought to you by Bel Sante Beauty, the best in organic, non-synthetic, non-GMO, locally sourced beauty products. Visit etsy.com/shop/Bel Sante Beauty. It's all happening. 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 Welcome to the podcast, episode 109 of the It's All Happening with Zach Leary podcast. That is me, your host, and I'm so happy that you're here. I say that every week. I'm so happy that you're here. I mean, obviously, I'm happy that you're here. I mean, if I wasn't happy that you were here, that would be a very strange relationship to have with you, the listener, right? Like, oh, fuck you. Go listen to something else. You know, I really do know how many options there are, how many little portals there are into alternative consciousness, alternative media, so many ways to spend your time in the multiverse and all the various offerings of media in audible, visual, and written form that there are. So I really do appreciate that. And this week on the podcast, we have the legendary Bruce Margolin, attorney at law. Bruce is a legend in the marijuana-oriented, free speech-oriented, criminal defense end of things. And we'll talk about Bruce for a while. He goes way back with my family. And some of the stories are really amazing. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But first, net neutrality. This is a very, very important issue to understand, to talk about, and to still get involved in. Net neutrality is the internet's guiding principle. It's basically the idea and the system that preserves our right to communicate freely online, in the sense that the internet is essentially just a signal, an IP signal broadcasting bandwidth in an egalitarian nature. Every website, every product has an equal access to that distribution mechanism, right? So it means that the internet enables and protects free speech, essentially, right? So the defeat of net neutrality, the disintegration or implosion or the restructuring of it, means companies like Comcast or Spectrum or AT&T or Verizon, whoever provides your bandwidth, no longer will provide it in the utilitarian sense, like electricity. It's just a signal that comes into your house, and what you do with it and what you watch is up to you. They will be able to call the shots and decide which websites, which content, and perhaps most importantly, which opinions they think should have priority into your home. So potentially they'll be able to block political opinions they'll agree with. They'll be able to fast track political opinions and messages that they do agree with. They can charge extra fees for content that perhaps they're not in favor of, or they can slow down content to a crawl that they think is detrimental. So imagine a very kind of carbon copy, generic, low-hanging fruit example like this. The Koch brothers buy your local ISP, in my case, Spectrum, formerly Time Warner. They buy it, they throw out all the net neutrality rules because they can, and they decide what content they want to fast track into your home and what content they want to bury and slow to a crawl. Obviously, a very politically minded organization like the Koch brothers with very, very deep pockets could find this way of controlling speech and controlling media very, very, very advantageous. So that's a very, very basic example of why net neutrality is so important. And for those of you who have basically ignored it and really didn't think it was going to matter, now is the time to really get involved, because there are many states, California and New York being two of them, that are suing the FCC for this brazen, sweeping, unilateral policy that they passed. So keep an eye on it. One of the great things about the internet was that it's been egalitarian all this time. It's had free access. It's had the ability for content from all sources of all walks of life to hit your eyeballs and to hit your brain and to alter your consciousness with a certain sense of equality. So keep your eye on that. When on the road, traveling through the nooks and crannies of the vast neighborhoods of humanity, now and then you come across someone or something that is doing something really special. Something so special that it leaves a deep impression on your consciousness and you want to share it with the whole world. This happened to me over Thanksgiving weekend in Boise, Idaho. It was so inspiring that these 70s soft rock cheesy ballad chord progressions came oozing out of my heart and into this commercial. But really what happened was, I met a woman named Sarah Jo, who is a modern-day whole-body alchemist who has transformed her kitchen into a Willy Wonka-like all-organic lotion and potion wonder lab, intent on creating some of the best all-natural bath and beauty products available today. These products have taken the form of Belle Sante Beauty, B-E-L-L-E, Sante, S-A-N-T-E, Beauty, and they will make your skin sparkle. They will transform your bath into a CBD-infused healing zone and make your life force glow like never before. One of the most powerful forms of enacting social change in the world today is how and where and with who we spend our money. Every holiday season, we have that choice to support the giant corporate behemoth that has huge amounts of marketing dollars and uses them to shove all these crazy messages full of all sorts of incentives and false promises down our throats and into our consciousness every year. Or you can support the little guy. There are lots of people like Belle Sante Beauty who are out there making products and creating them and offering them out into the world for the sole intention of trying to make the world a better place with their own little touch of love and innovation and inspiration. Belle Sante Beauty is certainly one of those companies. Go to etsy.com/shop/Belle Sante Beauty. That's BELLESANTE Beauty. Belle Sante Beauty. Etsy.com/shop Belle Sante Beauty. This holiday season, do yourself a favor. Make your body and your skin and your hair and your inner vibrations sparkle like never before, and give this wonderful company a chance for your magical holiday shopping. So this podcast with the legendary Bruce Margolin, who has been practicing law in Los Angeles and Southern California for 50 years. And he is one of the most renowned and trusted names in marijuana law and criminal defense. And so go to 420laws.org to see the Margolin Guide to State of California and United States federal marijuana laws to really get into all the minutia of his expertise. But this podcast took a very, very fascinating turn right in the middle for a good, I say, 25 to 30 minutes of it. Bruce, in 1972, after he got back from India and met Neem Groli Baba, represented my dad, who had just been captured in Kabul after escaping from prison and was granted political asylum in Switzerland and Algiers and all that. But anyway, he was captured and brought back to the States, and his attorney for the escape charges was none other than Bruce Margolin. And to hear these stories, to hear the story and the picture and the visual that was painted in the middle of this podcast is really, really fantastic. I think you'll enjoy it a lot. I sure did My God, it took me right there. I was hanging on every word. So, Bruce Margolin, enjoy.
One thing I can tell you is you got to be free. Come together right now over me.
Want to test first?
Bruce Margolin, Badranath, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure being in front of you face to face like this.
Yeah. It's
First place, all these years we've known each other, I don't think we've actually sat down face to face, but this brings us together.
Brings us together.
And so it's a blessing.
It is a blessing, and that's actually one of the sort of the great offshoot results of podcasting. One of the beautiful results. It's like, yes, it's sort of a high-tech medium.
Yeah.
It's available on the internet, but it returns people to the form of conversation.
Which is something we're losing.
We're losing it.
It's ridiculous. People text all day long. They don't know how to speak on the phone. You can't hear them. I mean, it's the worst.
And when was the last time? It's not that often where you sit down at a table in front of someone and just exchange.
Yes,
ideas.
it's untrue. It's usually unless it's some chick you're trying to hit on or something.
Right.
That's a different story, right?
Or in your case, a defendant who you're trying to.
Yes, I can concentrate. I can try to focus on their conversations. Although oftentimes people don't look you in the eye like you're doing, so that's much more reassuring, and also much easier to read what you're thinking and what you're saying. And
so the defendant doesn't look at you in the eye.
Not necessarily. They don't look at that kind of intimate place. I mean, I don't know why. I'm just saying in general terms. Although it depends on the person, obviously. I get all kinds of clients that.
Well, I had a spell some years back, oh God, I don't know, 17 years, 18 years or so ago, where I was got into some trouble with my addiction and, how to deal with the criminal justice system. And I remember talking to my attorney and just so much shame. Mm-hmm. Especially like when you're in custody or something. So much
I don't
shame
know.
about the whole
well,
thing.
Obviously, that's a big part of my practice is trying to make people trust me, because it's a weird thing about it. If they believe in their lawyer, somehow this magic happens. People ask me, "Oh, you're a great lawyer. You're so wonderful. You get all these people." I said, "My clients are lucky. It's their karma, honestly. Because that's where it's coming from." Yeah. And so if the clients are anxious and they don't look at me, I try to bring them into the present, and I try to bring the present myself. That's the story.
So let's talk a little bit about the legalities of what it is you do. You're known primarily as a marijuana or cannabisly focused lawyer, attorney here, and you're extremely notable for having a great amount of expertise in that area. Mm-hmm. I know you do other forms of law as well, but you're really known for that and have been working on the front lines for decades now. Prop 64.
5, exactly.
Huh?
5 decades.
5 decades.
Not 5 of them.
5, that's many decades.
My 50th year this year.
That's amazing. Prop 64, it's in effect, but January 1st it becomes available, cannabis becomes available recreationally in terms of a retail form.
Well, that's the bottom line. People have to understand, Prop 64 passed a year ago, November 8th, all right? Yep. And then, so in the meantime, we've had different cities and counties that are allowing different kinds of licensing, which means that they can license everything from seed to sale under Prop 64. And so very few of them have brought licenses forward that are for recreational. Now, that term recreation, I think, degrades the sacred herb myself. Because it's more than that. It's spiritual, for one thing.
Okay.
And so the term is adult use. And so when we talk recreation, we're not going to talk that word. We're going to say adult use or spiritual use, okay? Right. Other uses will people decide. No, nevertheless, my point is this. It isn't until 2018 until the state of California issues licenses. Okay. You first have to have a local license, then the state of California will issue a license in 2018. So people are thinking marijuana is not legal until 2018. No, it's been legal since 2016, November 8th.
What does this do for your law practice?
Well, I want to know who this guy would want to legalize this stuff. They ruined my practice. No, I'm kidding. The bottom line is this. I'm morphed into a business lawyer now, okay? Trying to help my clients get licensing because they'll stay out of trouble. And I'm doing a lot of that work, okay? I mean, I have 4 or 5 people coming today to talk about what it's about, how they can get into the business.
How do I get a license to do?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And so I'm down for that. And by the way, anything I talk about here in this program, they can basically read it simply by going on my website and read my guide, okay? I have a guide on marijuana laws that I'm proud to talk about. I know you're saying this is another hustle.
They can't hear your beautiful sing-songy voice.
But I want them to know, if you want some backstory on this,
yes.
Go to 420laws.com and scroll down to my green book, my guide on marijuana laws, which I've done for 21 years, every year, to tell what the laws are. And I've done the best I can at the moment, and I'll explain maybe in this program how complicated things are about the laws that are in place. That's why people don't know what's going on, and I'll explain to you why. But meanwhile, getting back to Prop 64, what did you want to know about it?
Well, I mean, you just answered a lot, but from my perspective, when I was growing up as a teenager in Los Angeles in the 80s and 90s, such a huge part of the culture around securing cannabis, for me and my deadhead friends in the 80s and 90s, it was centered around the illegality of it. Meeting the man, in like he had a little
back alley somewhere.
A back alley where he had like a little a bus, a little microbus.
That's your guy. That's your guy.
Like a little soccer.
That was your
bus.
Connection.
That was my connection, and we'd meet him at various places in LA.
How cool!
And it was always sort of sketchy, and I was always
cool.
And never in a million years did we think
could walk into a store.
That it would accelerate so quickly.
You could walk into a store and
you could
score.
walk into a store and score. And
you don't need any identification. You don't need anything. You don't have to prove nothing. You don't have to prove unless you're under 21, arguably.
Yeah, I mean, and my take on it is that, and this is one of the best things that I think Obama ever said, sort of on the movement, was when you have this many people who engage in adult use of cannabis, you're essentially you have a civil war going on. There's too many people. There's millions of people. Therefore, you can't effectively, fight.
Control it.
Control it. No. That's ridiculous. So, I mean, what do you think led to this? I mean, how did this happen all of a sudden?
It's a combination of events, obviously, and I could give you the whole backstory, starting way back when I began my practice in 1967, when marijuana was first brought to my attention as a young lawyer, okay? In those days, any amount was a felony punishable by prison.
Wow.
Okay, that's for starters, okay?
Any amount?
Yeah.
Wow.
Matter of fact, your father went to prison for 2 ounces of weed for the prison sentence of up to 5 years, indeterminate sentence.
Unbelievable.
For just a couple ounces of weed, okay? That's why they could use it in such a political way. They could do anything from that to send you to prison. So that's how we started my practice. Matter of fact, California was one of the first arrests that happened in California, probably one of the first in the country. It was in 1915. It was in Sonora Town, which is now like Alvera Street, of a Hispanic American. What else, okay? That was 100 years ago. Matter of fact, we had an event downtown Los Angeles with many of our our political leaders joining us in this unfortunate anniversary of 100 years of these ridiculous crimes. But I don't want to digress too much, okay? Which I have a tendency to do. Am I answering the question? No. Objection.
Keep going.
You can say objection.
Objection. Sustained.
The objection is that he's not answering the question, Your Honor.
So it started in the 60s. No, this is great. I love filling in the color here in the background.
It's okay. I'm not talking too much, too long.
No, this is great. Good. So in the 60s, 1967, you started the practice. Any amount was punishable by time in prison.
Yes, up to 5 years.
Up to 5 years.
Indeterminate sentence from 0 to 5.
So the Nixon war on drugs, is that sort of what catapulted it or capitulated it into something that kind of hung around, basically?
Well, this is the deal with that. It's very politically motivated.
Yeah.
He saw these people parading against him and getting out in the streets and demonstrating against him. And as far as he was concerned, they were freaking marijuana users, okay?
Right.
And he saw them as the enemy. So he wanted to promote this marijuana prosecution business to get these people off the street and show them who was boss, basically, okay? And that's a big part of the picture. Every picture goes along the way. Matter of fact, that same president called your father, if I recall, the most dangerous man in America. Yes. How do you feel about that? I want to interview you about it, to tell you the truth. I mean, how do you like that for a claim?
But
the president of the United States.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I think? I come across so many people today, especially younger people, millennials, when they talk about Timothy. This actually happened. I mean, he actually did 4 years hard time.
No shit. And then and as a 50-year-old Harvard professor, okay, going to jail for political reasons.
For political reasons.
That judge that gave him the prison time, in Santa Ana. I wasn't there, but I know the backstory on it. Okay, he held up an article that your father did in the Free Press. Okay, it was an article basically trying to tell people they had a responsibility. If they're going to deal drugs, they better know what the drugs are about, take it themselves so they know the reaction to it, stay with the client, stay with them through the experience, and be there for them. He was trying to give them heads up how important it was at set and setting. You know, you have to, who you're with can make a huge difference, okay? And these experiences are the good dealer to be with you with these experiences.
Yes.
Well, that judge held up that article about him and said, as far as he's concerned, he was encouraging people to sell drugs, and he's sending them to prison for 2 ounces of marijuana.
Unbelievable.
That's when he ended up in prison. That's where he escaped.
And we're going to talk about the escape stuff in a second.
Okay.
We're going to talk about that because that's an important part of your story. So,
where were we?
So going on, you're a young lawyer. Were you based in Los Angeles always?
Yes.
Yeah, and that place on Holloway.
Right.
Right.
Let me have something over there to write down your questions so I don't get lost in the subject matter of some other idea. Okay. Okay, so we're back here in 1967.
Yeah,
yes, it's a felony in California.
So you're a young lawyer.
I'm a young lawyer.
In
just got out of law school. I just got out of law school, and I was 25 years old, and I passed the bar the first time from Southwestern Law.
Wow.
Which I was very proud of.
And
I worked my way through school. I've been on my own since I was 19. And so I'm 25 years old, and I didn't have much, options in life, but I did have a law degree, and I was very happy I passed the bar.
It was a big deal.
It's huge. I never expected it. I didn't anticipate it. I never thought I had capable of it. But I found out when I got to law school, I knew I could think like a lawyer for some reason.
Yeah.
I guess it's Talmudic thinking. The Talmud, you know?
Yeah,
it's
sure.
deductive logic.
Yeah.
I couldn't spell, I couldn't barely read, I swear. I came out of Valley College, went to law school, and matter of fact, when I took my first major test in law school, the Professor Rubin, showed me her own law school later on. She read my article, read my essay to the class. I said, here's a student that got the highest grade in the class and misspelled the first 4 words. I said, Jesus. And so she didn't say who it was exactly, but I figured maybe it was me. And then she wanted to say that, don't worry, when you become a lawyer, you'll have a secretary that's going to take care of your typing and all that other stuff. And I said, oh my God, I died and went to heaven, okay?
Now, what about your behavior in the courtroom? Was that something that came naturally? How to sort of, I've always thought...
Yeah, the bottom line with this, okay? I don't call myself a great orator. Yeah. I'm just trying to be there in the present, okay? And I try to talk to the court or the judge or the witnesses like I'm talking to you right now, okay?
Okay.
But let's get down to the nitty-gritty here, okay? Yeah. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty when I talk to the witnesses on the stand. That's my style. Is it fancy? No. Is it necessarily bestly professional? No. But it's effective, I'm finding out. I was in court just yesterday, and a guy had a big case. He was accused of receiving $430,000 of artwork, okay?
Oh, wow.
Which he bought for about $25,000, okay? Anyway, so... it was an experience like that. But I knew the judge and the person who's testifying for the company that got ripped off. I just talked to him directly, and I got a lot of good stuff out of both of them. I'm lucky in that way,
Yeah.
But I don't have any great skills. But I do want to say one thing. When I was in junior college, and I was interviewed, and they gave me this counseling teacher before I was graduating with a big deal, my AA degree. They had me take some kind of aptitude test, and guess what they suggested? Disc jockey. So I thought that wasn't very sophisticated. I thought I wanted to do something more with my life than that.
That's not even a real thing.
Yeah, well, it is. I could probably still be on the radio making some big bucks like you guys. I could have done all that.
That's really funny.
Isn't that funny?
So, okay, so I'm just going chronologically here. So you started your law practice.
Right.
And then, about 5-6 years into it, you go to India, you meet Maharaja, you meet Neem Karoli Baba.
We can skip right ahead, but let me tell you some interesting things that can happen along the way. First of all, I get involved with representing people on drug cases, LSD cases, and marijuana cases.
Right away, in the 60s?
Right away.
Wow.
So I got out of law school, and I came along at the right time at the right place, because I came out of law school, I felt sharp, and I knew my little law, and I knew fresh what the law was, and laws have been changing drastically in those years regarding searches and seizures, okay? And so the Supreme Court ruled that cops who were violating the law could no longer get the fruit of the poison tree, which means the evidence would be suppressed against them if they violated the constitutional rights of a defendant.
Search and
That didn't happen before that, okay? So I come along out of law school, and many cops didn't know the laws, and they weren't trained. It was amazing. It was like taking candy from a baby, basic stuff. Knock notice, for example. You're supposed to knock and demand your entry before you go in. They never heard of it. Wow. They had no idea what I was talking about. Boom, case dismissed, case dismissed all day long, all right? Wow. One example. And then what happened is along the way, I got a lot of young kids because I was a young kid, and I see younger people trust younger lawyers somehow. Maybe they feel they can relate to them. But my practice mushroomed, okay? And I was motivated to change the law because some of the things that would happen in the courtroom shocked me to find out what it was about. First of all, the young kids going to jail or prison with rapists and robbers. I couldn't fucking believe it. For weed.
Nonviolent offenders.
I couldn't figure it out. What's this about? And I had a case involving about 25 hippies at a hippie house here in Hollywood, okay? And I remember I took all 25 of them for $25 a piece, okay? And I remember learning about the Raymond Court and all that. In those days, we wouldn't get too niceties about conflicts of interest like we would today, but in those days, we could do anything almost. But nevertheless, at the end of the day, that case was one guy who was going to be sentenced on this weed. I don't know how much it was. It wasn't a big deal, probably. So I said to the judge, Judge, I just got out of law school, and my understanding is, according to the American Bar Association standards of punishment, is supposed to be on the intended wrong. I don't understand. What is the court thinking? Why? How can you punish this man? Where's the intended wrong to have marijuana? Even if he was sharing it with his friends or whatever. He was an older guy. They probably got a big kick on him because I was very young looking. I was just 25, and probably everybody was in the courtroom besides that. And he looked around. Well, son, he broke the law. And I thought, well, I guess I got to get out of the courtroom, I figured at that point, because I'm not going to change it here. That's when I began an organization to legalize marijuana in 1968, which brought to me a lot of people that I ended up in India because how they changed my life by sharing their philosophy, okay? I had these young acid heads, I had all these hippies.
That was the seed.
The seed was, of course, I was also...
Were you a hippie?
Well, I always wanted to be. Okay, but I never really could be because I was in law school, and then I became a lawyer. So part of my thing about going to India, ending up there, was to be free at last. Okay.
Then you could finally be
free after
long hair.
Because after that, well, I became a long hair, but not until I ended my career, at least at that stage. In those years, between 1967 and 1970, I had 8 lawyers working for me, 25 employees. I had 50 cases a day on the calendar. I was flying from city to city. I mean, I was just a star.
Amazing.
So, nevertheless, I had that hippie thinking in my mind. I wanted to go on an adventure. I wanted to be free at last, okay? Even though I had a lot of success, and I had run for public office on the marijuana legalization platform, beat all the other Democrats, almost beat the 26-year incumbent from a Republican in the Hollywood Hills on marijuana legalization. I was a star.
Wow.
But I was getting tied down. I was representing 100-count cases every day. There's a lot of pressure, and I wanted to be free. I wanted to be a hippie, okay? So, if you want to hear the backstory,
yeah, of course, yeah.
So, but I was a little concerned about giving up my practice. People think I'm nuts, okay? So one of my girlfriends said, well, I know a psychiatrist. Why don't you go see this guy? And this Jewish guy named Harry Siegel. So he sat there and listened to my storyline. What are you doing? What are you thinking? He said, "Why don't you? Let me give you this book to read." His name is the guy Jung. He gave me Man and the Symbols. Okay, it's about dreams. He said, "Tell me about one of your dreams." I tell him about a dream I had, a very mystical dream. He says, "You know what? I know where you're going. I just wish I was going with you." And he gave me Be Here Now.
Oh wow.
Okay, amongst other books like Man and the Symbols, Jung, and the Ropes, the Master Game, and all these books to read. So I had to leave. Okay. But it broke my heart to leave too. I had a beautiful home, I had a girlfriend, I had my dog, I had my practice.
You left all that?
All of it, just pride in my driveway.
Wow.
And I said, but I got to go. I have no choice. Yeah. I have to be free of this.
Got to do it.
And so I got on the airplane and flew to. Let's see, I think I went to Europe first, and then went to Athens, and Athens went to the islands, and went to Hydra Island in Greece for about 2.5 months, where I read those books, did a lot of yoga, hung out with a lot of really cool people like Leonard Cohen and Leonard Cohen, the writer, the artist,
course.
and other people like that I met through a mentor that I had met named Don Munson. He turned me on to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Anyway, from there I went to Israel after going to Turkey and worked around a kibbutz for a couple months. So I didn't feel I was ready to go to India, okay?
So you were already well deep in sort of your mysticism search.
Oh, definitely. I was going to every church I could see, and I was doing meditation, I was doing my yoga. I was reading Be Here Now. I knew it backwards and forwards and upside down. I knew every word of every page, okay? And I read everybody I could meet. I was totally infatuated and totally deep into it.
Did you have knowing Be Here Now that well, did you have sort of an affinity already for Neem Karoli Baba?
No, not really. Because don't forget, Be Here Now, by Ram Dass's storyline, is that he really couldn't be found. He was kind of a mystery, you know?
Right.
So I had no identity.
I don't even know who he is what he would have.
Well, more or less, and he can't be found. And I don't know if he was just protecting his relationship with him. He won't be here now, probably, if I know RD, but at those stages.
Yeah.
He didn't want too many people going over there, I suppose.
It was that.
That was what it was.
Right.
Which, I don't know about that. Judge or be judged. I'm not going to say anything about it. But nevertheless, so I had no idea. But it came time after working on the kibbutz and having wonderful relationships and went to all kinds of different kinds of therapies I went to, bioenergetic therapy in Tel Aviv and just kind of different kinds of things. I went to Africa. And then finally I felt it was time to go. I was ready to go to India, okay?
Yeah.
I got on the airplane, flew to India.
To Delhi?
No, I flew to Bombay.
Okay.
Now, I'll pick up the story from there. What you asked me about India? Now, stage one.
Yeah, we're stage one. You get to India. Let's talk about meeting Neem Karoli Baba.
Well, I got to Bombay.
So what I want to talk about is meeting Neem Karoli Baba, your experience with that, and then transitioning back into your practice in Los Angeles.
Okay, we'll do all that.
And how that all
But meeting Neem Karoli Baba is not the essence of the story, believe it or not, okay? I'll get to that in a moment, all right?
Yeah.
So I get to Bombay, and I end up staying at a hotel, and I meet this woman who says, I know what you should do. You should go to Goenka in northern India. And I just came back from 3 sessions with him for 10 days. I'll take you there. We get on train. We end up in Rajasthan, up in northern India, where I get to this meditation course put on by Goenka. Yeah, I'm sure you're familiar with him, right?
I've been to the silent retreats, you know.
In America, right?
In America.
Well, let me tell you, his retreats were really juicy and beautiful. It was great, okay? And so beyond that, it was so enlightening, that experience. As you well know, 10 days of meditation with a master in your presence that can handle anybody who's flipping out on me. We're in India with a bunch of acid heads and all that, you know. He can handle all their problems, no problem. He just sat in peace, okay? It was a beautiful experience. And then I found out that Ram Dass had taken the same course just before I took this course 5 times in a row. So, wow, that's crazy, you know? I couldn't even believe he was even in the country, let alone even existed in real life, you know what I mean? And so I showed Goenka, Be Here Now. And Goenka said, oh, well, yes, Ram Dass is a very nice student. Please give him a message. Now, I thought reading all these books, this is like a tale out of one of these books. You're a message from the meditation teacher to Ram Dass. I got it going on, okay? Yeah. But I know where Ram Dass went. I had no idea. He's a big India. I mean, it's like, say, you know Tom Jones in America? Oh, yeah, he's a great guy, you know. And it's even more complicated than that because telephones don't work.
No telephones, it's a big deal.
So, nevertheless, I leave the course, and I'm just flying high, you know, you can imagine.
Yeah.
That meditation, the end of that course, 3 days of that love meditation, on top of me being in India now, being gone from my practice now about 6, 7, 8 months, okay? Wow. And I didn't even contact home, okay? I just let it all go, okay? Yeah. I was basically free, but I was deep into the studies of this meditation teaching and all the other stuff. I was deep into the philosophies. I was deep into reading. I was really identified with a lot of it. And sure enough, I go to a hotel room in New Delhi. I go to check in, and there's a freaking on the check-in thing, Ram Dass. So, geez, this is freaking weird. You know what I mean?
Wait, what was the message?
Let me finish.
Okay.
He was at the hotel there.
Yeah.
So I left a message for him, saying to the hotel staff, I have a message for you from Goenka because the place was filled up. So I came back the next day, and I go into. He said, so the they bring him up in his room. Oh, yes, send him in. I walk into the room where Ram Dass is. This is called Palace Heights, okay? You heard about it before?
I have, yeah.
Well, that's where he used to give lectures. He used to hang out apparently in New Delhi. I walk in there, and there he's sitting in his lotus position on a big, table,
Looking very...
Look at the whole scene. It's got this juice all over the face, okay? I mean, you got it all going on. The incense and the long beard, and the white robe and the blue eyes that were just glazing out at you. And he was doing a lot of meditation, so he was solid like a rock,
Yeah.
So... Well, I'm telling you this story because this is the point I'm trying to make about it, okay? It's reading that Be Here over and over again that I manifested this experience, okay? This is the real teaching of Maharaji, to actually bring him in my presence over knowing now, like I did then, of affirmation that we create what we think, okay? What we manifest our thoughts. Mm-hmm. And that's part of what happened here. That's what the miracle is for me, okay?
That was the big juicy moment.
This is the reality the reality of this happened. So I met Ram Dass, and he said, he heard my life story. What's your story? What's your story? I got a message for you from Goenka. He said, that's nice, okay. But we talked about, me, which I love to do. Anyway, nevertheless, he said, look, I want to take you to Maharaji myself. I want you to go. You should see him right away. I'm going down there tomorrow. I'm going back to Vrindavan.
Wow.
I said, shit, it's great. And he said, no, I don't think you should wait till tomorrow because Maharaji could be gone tomorrow. You got to go right now. So I took a taxi to Vrindavan. Okay?
From Delhi?
From Delhi. Well, it's only like a
couple hours.
2 hours, a couple hours.
Yeah.
And now we're walking into this ashram in India, and I'm still very much a neophyte when I said in India. I've only been in India now for 10 days in a course and maybe another 5 days before it, and now 2 days. I've been in India for maybe 20 days, okay?
Yeah.
I was afraid of the food. I was afraid of everything. I didn't know what was going on there. And so that's where I lead you now. That's who I am. That's the story.
But since we've come this far, we're at the gate of the ashram.
That's it. You got it. Oh, you picked up the clue.
I mean, I've been to that gate of the ashram many
And the angels picked
times.
me up and threw me up in the air and made him me on his lap. No, it wasn't quite like that.
It wasn't
something along those lines, okay?
Close enough.
So
okay.
anyway.
Fair enough.
So I didn't know from Maharaji. Okay, let me tell you, my tradition is Jewish tradition, okay?
Yeah.
And one of our theories of our philosophy is that you don't pray to idols.
Yeah, no idol worship.
You don't pray to other people, that's the Jewish trip, okay? That's one of our, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I don't know which one. Isaac, I guess, is when his son broke the idols. Who was that?
I don't know.
This is the backstory.
Yeah.
This is a big part of the Judaism, okay? Supposedly this guy was an idol maker, and one of our forefathers said to his father, Dad, what are these idols? Well, they're God and everything. So this Isaac or Jacob, he said, okay, well, if they're gods, I'll just break their arm or something and see if they do anything. They didn't do anything. So he realized that idols were not to be worshipped because they weren't real, okay? And he started this part of the Jewish tradition. He's one of our forefathers. So the idea of praying to someone or bowing to a statue is against our tradition, okay?
Right.
Although the Jews pray to their Torah, and they bow to your Torah, and they kiss the Torah when it goes by, and they treat it like a guru, okay? They got bells all over it and everything else, and beautiful blankets around it. It's amazing. So it's another kind of worship. So you went
in with that trip? That was
I
already...
went there with it, yeah. So I go to Maharaji, see Maharaji's tucket, okay? Sitting there on the veranda, and with one of his blankets. At that point, I was just very excited about this. Oh, there's one of his blankets. I could see the patterned blanket. I was freaking out. So I put my head down on his tucket, and I said, I don't know what the story is here. I'm just going to surrender to it and see what happens, okay? And what happened, he came out, and guess what he turned out to be? A nice Jewish grandpa. He was as sweet as he could be. Where you from? What do you want? You have a little bit of borscht,
You need some food? Let me feed you.
Let me give you some food. But smile. What's your mother like? And it was wonderful because it really took away any kind of fear I had about maybe getting controlled. Understand?
Yeah.
That's that kind of paranoia that I didn't want to give up my mental state to some guru. They don't take over my life.
But he snapped that right away.
Yeah. I was, that's the kind of thing you worry about if you're really paranoid, like some people are. And so I didn't feel that at all. He told me to go over and stay at the Dharamsala. And who I go in there? I walk in there, Krishna Das and Mohan and all the whole gang of these Jewish New Yorkers. They're smoking weed, and I thought, this is my people, okay? So I thought, not only have Maharaji now, but now I had his family, okay? Which are a bunch of my people, you know? So I felt very comfortable with them, and that was really nice. But I was still very anxious about being in India. But they kind of helped me get over that when they suggested I drink the water that washed Maharaji's feet, okay?
Wow.
And I remember that was kind of a threshold for me because I was concerned about eating in India and food in India, which is a later story I'll tell you about in a moment.
Okay, so we get there.
So
we're not going to detour in India for the rest of the podcast, but we're there. Obviously, something happens to you. You know, that whole time away, Greece, Israel, Goenka, Maharaji, Ramdas, the whole thing. Obviously, some transformation happens to you.
Yeah, I lost a lot of weight.
Lost a lot of weight, too. So what's the point when you're like, okay, this has been great, but I need to go back and live my life?
Well, so what
happens?
I was with Maharaji just for 10 days. I was with him for a lengthy time, okay? And then he took off. He said he's going to jout everybody. So I hung out with India for another month or so, something like that. Basically wanted to see if he'd show up somewhere. And I went to Nainital, and I was in Nainital. It's now Christmas time almost, hanging out with RD. But no one told me about anything about Kenshi. I didn't even know it even existed. Now, these guys are not really upfront about their relationship to let me know too much.
Okay, I see.
But no one knew where Maharaji was. And I said to myself, you know, I had this experience. I know he revealed himself to me, which you can talk about some other time. And so I know he knows, okay? And so what am I going to learn here? So I decided to go back to America. And so ultimately I get back to the States, and that was quite an emotional dealing with now with these 25 people that work for me all waiting me at the airport. I mean, it kind of blew my mind out of my head. One of the guys working, he brought everybody to the airport, okay? And they thought that they could bow down to my feet and I would walk on water. And I tell you, it was pretty spaced out. I mean, our eyes were like, you know, glaring, you know. But anyway, I go back and I go back to my house in Studio City. It's a nice little house in the hills there. And I decided I didn't want to go back to work necessarily, okay? I didn't know what I wanted to do at that moment. I knew that I had a lot of teachings, and I didn't know what I was going to do with them exactly, or where it was going to lead me. But I wasn't prepared to go back into that scene yet. But meanwhile, so I had a course at my house, one of the first in America, of Vipassana course, because one of the people that ordained by Goenka, Umbakin, was his teacher, gave 3 or 4 people the authority to teach Vipassana. And one of them was right over here, worked in Redondo in some airbase, okay? He was a mathematician. His name was Hoover. So I got him to come over to the house to do a Vipassana course. I had a bunch of these hippie Indians and American Indians and all that there. And it turns out, while I was at that course, I got a call from Ramdas and the editor of the Free Press, Art Kunkin, saying that your father, Tim Leary, is in jail. Could you help him? Okay. So the backstory is this. What I learned from Maharaji about why I went forward is he said, not directly, but I get it through the satsang or whatever other place I picked up this line, that if you have a boon to help others, you should use it, okay? And the boon I had is lucky clients, and I knew how to handle the course, and I was inspired to be a lawyer to help people. So I went to visit your father.
So let's cut to that. So he's in jail. Where is that in the timeline?
He's in Santa Ana.
Is this post-escape?
Post-escape.
Okay. So he's already been in Algeria and Switzerland. They've captured him. He's back.
Right.
Okay.
He got caught in Kabul.
Yeah.
So taken back by the DEA agents. We say he was kidnapped. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's what we claim. He tried to get asylum in England before he got to America. They didn't give it to him. He partied on the airplane, got back, and now he's in jail, in prison, having escaped. Okay,
right.
And so he was in trouble. And besides that, he was hoping it blew over, but because of his relationship with the Eternal Love organization and
the Laguna Beach, the Laguna people,
who've been indicted all over the place for acid conspiracy.
The League for Spiritual Discovery people.
at least he wasn't facing anything like that, okay? Because that was one of his concerns, that he would have that kind of problem if they kept him in jail, because they'd try to bring him into a case somehow and keep him forever.
He was facing, escaping from prison and fleeing the country. That's a pretty big charge.
I would say so, yeah. Yeah.
Right. So you were trying to help him with that.
Right.
Okay.
And I was very, so I went to see your father, and coming back from India, I still was like talking like a hippie.
Right.
And so I said to him, well, I said, we get, how much do you want to charge me, and all that? And I said, I don't want anything. I just want your teachings. And so he'd already decided he wanted me as his lawyer at that point. And so that's what I try to get from your father, his teachings. Okay?
So I just want to add the visual here. Your initial relationship with him, he's in custody.
He's in jail, yeah. And no one can see him. He's in solitary confinement. They won't let anybody even talk to him. He's a big escapee, man.
Wow.
When they took him from Santa Ana to San Luis Obispo, where the trial was, they had like 10 cars behind him, 10 cars in front of him, cop cars, airplanes over the top of the, flying over his freaking car. Because they think he was going to create a revolution, okay?
That's fantastic.
Because, he got busted when he was running for governor in 1970. I was running for assembly myself, you know?
Come together, join the party.
And again, as I mentioned, that Nixon called him the most dangerous man in America.
Were you allowed to talk to him in person?
Yes,
okay.
all day long. I was the only one allowed to talk to him about 3 months.
Wow.
So I had quite a relationship with him,
Fantastic.
And a lot of times he was in solitary confinement, so when I come out, he would talk to me. We'd talk about all kinds of different things, okay?
Okay, so the years you knew him, having met him then, but then, you knew him well up into his death in 1996. All those years, there's a lot of theories, there's a lot of conjecture, there's a lot of projections about his time in solitary. Mm-hmm. I have my own opinions, but there's the conjecture being that his time in solitary did a number on him.
It weakened his resolve, right?
Yeah.
They did everything they can to destroy him, okay?
Yeah, and
they abused him, they tortured him, they fucked with him.
And they put chemicals in his food and shit.
I can't attest to that. All I can say, they gave him whatever drugs he wanted. They were giving him, apparently, I don't know, more than maybe they should have had. Who knows, you know what I mean? And so...
but were you starting to see sort of like this facade crack a little bit, or was he still just sharp, dialed in?
No, he wasn't sharp. It was hard for him. He would never admit it. He has a very strong will, okay?
Yeah.
He was a very powerful person, very shining light, okay?
Yeah, and it's hard. It's always hard for him to talk about his fallibilities.
No, he would never talk. He would never. I said he would never, okay?
Yeah.
We talked about a lot of things in how he saw things,
Yeah.
But he never was a crybaby, okay? Let's put it to that,
right.
okay?
And never played victim.
He never played that, it didn't make me, make it more difficult for me. I think he was recognizing it's hard enough having to defend him in a jurisdiction I had no experience with, in a case where they were watching me every minute of the day, and the pressure was on me. And I was living with Joanna Harcourt Smith in Cayucas, with a guy that turned out to be an informant the whole time. He was with him in Kabul, okay? But for me, I'll tell you a funny story. Later years, I met a cop that was assigned to watch me while I was defending him the whole time, okay? His name was Fast Eddie. He was famous for Santa Ana cop, okay? And he said, we used to watch you for days. You would go and sit on the beach and meditate, and we're watching you for hours meditating on the beach. I said, what's the action? What's this guy going to do? Where's he going? Why is he doing something, I wasn't doing anything. I was totally into my dharmic path at that moment, and it was good. So anyway, yes, I saw him when he was in solitary confinement all those times. I don't think anybody else was allowed to see him because he was such a danger to the community, okay? And probably everything was wired. They didn't play any games. They were really scared about him, that he was talking about make him look bad again. And you escape from the cops, they beat you up when they find you, okay?
Yeah.
That's how it always works. I know myself because one time I escaped from the cops at Italy, but that's another story. But anyway, so that's typical what happens in America. If someone runs, they beat them up.
And for those listening, I know probably most of you listening know this story, but just to be clear in case there's some confusion, he escaped from prison. And go on the internet and you can find the map in San Luis Obispo, California Men's Colony, where he escaped, and he fled with the Weatherman Underground to Algeria and Switzerland.
Algiers, and then
Algiers, yeah.
Switzerland.
So just knowing the context here, when we're saying escaped, he really did escape.
But let me tell a little bad story. Okay. For example, why he was so, shall we say, I don't want to say hated, I just say disdained by because he left a poem for the prison guards, okay, on top of it. A beautiful poem. Do you know about the poem?
I do, yes.
It said, "Follow me to freedom. In the days of Hitler, you enslaved the Jews. In the days of Rome, you kept Jesus. And it's all, follow me. You could be free too. You don't have to be prison guards, you know. Kind of
So
rub
cool.
their salt and nose in it, you know what I mean? He gave me that poem and gave it to me as an honor to keep. That's my poem.
Really?
That was my pay at the
You
end.
still have it?
Yeah, somewhere around.
Oh.
I'm looking. It was my fee for the case. At
Wow.
the end, yeah.
You should, well, we'll talk about that.
Well, I had a fire later on. I don't know if you know about that. I had moved to Malibu Mountains up in Latigo Hills. It's a beautiful home up there, wooden glass and all that stuff. And sure enough, it burnt down. So I lost all my memorabilia, all my pictures of Maharaji and me and Ramdas together and all the mashpucha, the other people in the satsang. All of it was gone.
The poem went with
so
it.
that was from Lord Shiva, so that my ego would be dealt with a little bit. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So that's my
Spiritual
story.
materialism.
Yes, that's it.
So what were you trying to, so eventually, from a legal standpoint, you're dealing with him. What is it that you're trying to get from the legal system with him? He escaped from prison. What are you after? What are you trying to, what are you asking for?
Well, let me tell you, let me start with this, okay?
Yeah.
There was looked like an old grumpy judge on the bench, all right? He'd lean over, his glasses look up at me, you know. He was about 70 years old. Not that that's old, come to think of it. But he was not in good shape, all right? Young man, I've had about 200 escape charges in this court over these years. None of them ever last more than 3 days. You hear me? Yes, Your Honor. I don't want any shenanigans, Your Honor. I don't want shenanigans out of you or your client. I'm not going to take any of that. Because he was very nervous that we cause some kind of riot or something, because there's a lot of supporters out there, you know, and they didn't know what they were dealing with, you know. And so I said, Your Honor, look, I have some theories of the defense. If you don't like them, just tell me, counsel, no, I'm not going to let you get into that area. Just let me have it, and I'll respect the court, make sure my client respects the court, everything will be kosher, okay, and cool. That's how he left it. So here I was at the trial with no real defense. Escape, the law is, you're supposed to, let's assume you have a fire there, okay? And you got to escape.
Yeah.
The law is you have to surrender to the nearest police station to the facility, okay?
Right.
So here he was out in Kabul. I think he's pretty much escaped, okay? But anyway, so first of all, there was two purposes.
Yeah.
The one purpose was to make sure the public knew why he was in jail, okay? We wanted publicity so I could tell them over and over again, this most dangerous man in America is in jail for 2 ounces of marijuana. That's what he was given that sentence in Santa Ana, some other lawyer representing George Chula, okay, years ago. And so we wanted to repeat that over and over again because he was afraid he was never going to get out. And he thought public opinion would make a difference. And we knew we were going to lose. On the other hand, there was another part of the picture is to give, it was a place to give your father's history, okay? His philosophy, his ideas.
Right.
And I had some most wonderful witnesses to come testify, and I had like 4 areas of defense, okay? One was he had to escape because other people were threatening him, older inmates, because they saw him as a drug dealer, and that their grandchildren were out in those 60s and 70s, those years when he escaped.
Yeah.
There was all kinds of problems with kids using drugs and overdosing and all this
Sure,
shit.
of course,
Okay,
yeah.
so they blamed him.
Yeah.
They were out to get him. That's one theory. Okay, so he had to escape. We didn't say much about that he didn't surrender to a police station right afterwards. At least that was our theory. Okay. Another theory was, and this sounds even more crazy. And I want to tell you, at the end of the game, the judge allowed me to present all of them. All right. He was very cool at the end of the game. He was a nice guy after all, you know. Anyways, this charge was based upon something that just happened very recent before the trial. That was a charge against a black hack activist. I think of his name in a moment. It'll come to my mind, I'm sure. But his Newton, I think his name was Newton, Huey Newton. He was accused of killing a police officer.
Yeah.
And when he did that, what had happened, he had been shot, and he apparently shot the cop. And the defense they developed was called unconsciousness. That he was unconscious at the time he pulled the trigger, and sure enough, he's found not guilty. Okay? So I'm thinking to myself, well, if unconsciousness is not a type of state of mind that should be punished, what about stupor consciousness? What about a man who's trying to explain subjects of the world by his escape? This man is not motivated to hurt anybody. So So that was my next defense, super consciousness. So, Your Honor, I want to put on witnesses that talk about this man's abilities and understanding the universe. And part of our superconscious defense was he related that he's trying to demonstrate that we have to escape from the planet. That's what this idea was, because of the ecological problems we're having, and we have to go into space, okay? And I had a flashback defense, okay? This defense was because of the pressures of being in prison at that time, and because of his extensive use of LSD, he had a flashback. And what is the consequences of being under the influence of LSD? You cannot be detained. You must escape. You cannot be confined. Isn't that true?
Yeah, sure.
Have you ever had LSD?
Of course.
Well, you know.
Yes.
Do you want to be stuck in a closet somewhere?
Absolutely not. Yeah.
So you have no choice.
Everything
It's
is turned
involuntary intoxication. It's a defense. You know, involuntary intoxication is a defense. Somebody gives you a Mickey.
Yeah.
Well, how about if you got a flashback that you didn't know about? And so, and then we also
That's pretty esoteric.
And also, yes, and also, so I had all these people coming from Harvard, okay, the theologians that were head of the departments that talked about their LSD experiences. I had people coming, the psychologists that gave your father tests while he was in prison about his IQ and said your father had 195 fucking IQ or something like that. And matter of fact, they testified that he was teaching them what they were giving the test. This is the kind of person he is, okay? He's a leader. He's a guru, whatever you want to call it. We didn't use those terms.
Yeah.
But he had a superconscious mind. And then I remember we were in the middle of this conversation about what portion of the trial we're talking about the defenses. For the flashback, I want to tell you this part, okay? Back comes Harry Siegel, because I'm going all over with all your father's friends from all over the freaking country. Who's going to be willing to testify that your father was in a state of a flashback experience when he escaped? Well, all these chicken shit friends of your father's, they didn't want anything part of it.
They bailed, right?
A lot of people showed up for him, okay?
Yeah.
But many people didn't want to be there. I remember, well, not that he didn't want to be there, but, Allen Ginsberg, for example, he met with me something. He didn't want to show up in the courthouse there, you know?
Right.
And so, nevertheless, who comes in? Harry Siegel decides he'll help me, okay? He comes up, sees your father in custody, and testifies that he had an LSD flashback. That's why he escaped from description of what he was going through. And the DA said, "What are you talking about, Dr. Siegel? How many people you seen on LSD?" He said, "About 1,000. "Are you kidding me? What even 1,000? He said, "Well, I also volunteer for the free clinic for years. People come all the day and overdosing or whatever else, LSD, okay? Anyway, so that was part of the defense. And then your father testified at the end of the time. And know what he's testified to? Read my book, okay? I'm working on it with Parvati right now, and I got all his testimony at the time of this trial. Now, your father thought that if we get the right jurors, he would win them over with his personality.
With his
okay?
charm.
With his charm.
Yeah.
Because he is gorgeous, okay?
Yeah.
He's a handsome man.
Yeah.
I mean,
Twinkle in his eye.
He wore those white tennis shoes. He was thin and fit, and he was powerful.
Yeah.
And he is powerful. He's still with us as we speak to him about it. Anyway, so we try to get as many women on the jury as possible, all right? So we ended up 11 women and one guy, okay? And your father took the stand to testify in the attempt to persuade these people, and his mind was so out of the realm of common consciousness that they should find him not guilty. Okay, and the trial took 2 weeks, and the press was there all day long and all that night long and all that stuff, and it was really a great time. It was really great. I don't know your father's life was on the line, but he never whined about it, never cried about it. He didn't know what was going to happen to him. He was afraid they were never going to let him out of jail. And so he really thought publicity would be the best thing for him. And me as a lawyer who doesn't like publicity and thinking, nuts, right?
Yeah, right.
Who could lose? And now I can still, here I am, how many years later?
48 years later.
48 years later, I'm still getting the juice from your father's trial, okay?
Or whatever.
And I'm loving it, and I appreciate your father so much to trust me with his life at a time with...
So what'd you get? What happened?
Well, let's just say the jury, the Time magazine described the end of the trial. He said, his eloquent defense counsel described his client as an eagle beating his wings against the cage, but it took the jury only an hour and a half to turn him back into a common jailbird. He was found guilty, obviously,
Yeah.
okay? So here it came time for sentencing, all right?
Yeah.
So before he gets sentenced, they interview the defendant if he has anything to say to the court. What does your father tell him? I'll escape again if I can. This did not make this guy happy, okay? He wanted to give him a break, all right? But he gave him the least sentence. He gave him 6 months. It was an indeterminate sentence, and he said 6 months, but he could keep him longer.
Yeah.
But he made a point that he didn't give him a big sentence, all right? And so that was...
It wasn't too bad, other than Jerry Brown pardoned him.
No, I don't know. You really couldn't control your sentence much. You give prison, you don't give prison, but I think the minimum you get is 6 months, and I think he suggested that or whatever. But meanwhile, they kept him a lot more than 6 months.
Yeah, he did about 2.5 years.
Yes, and they tortured him.
Yeah.
I understand they took him from place to place, and they also disgraced him, okay? You know that part of the story, right?
Tell me.
Well, Joanna Harcourt Smith, and I don't want to make any defamatory remarks about her,
Yeah.
but he had an idea that he wouldn't talk to me about this, didn't tell me this, but I think in his mind he knew he was fucked, all right? And the only way he's going to get out of jail is to disgrace himself and to participate with the cops to show him he's a player.
Right.
Now the story is, and I'm not saying it's true, I wasn't there at the time, but I understand I'm talking gossip, which all Maharaji's devotees do, that Joanna decided to set up his previous lawyer to bust him, to help Tim to show that they were working with the man, okay? So she went down to the previous lawyer, the representative George Chula, into Santa Ana. I'm Tim's girlfriend and all this stuff, and he's in jail. I'd like to meet with you and all that. Oh, yeah, sure, I'll come over where you at the hotel or whatever. Supposedly, she got to bring him a little cocaine and set him up. Then he gets involved with testifying against all our homeboys. Brahm Das, everybody he knew in the system.
Yeah.
He also testified, I'm sure, that Chula brought him LSD when he was in jail. And so that was part of the picture too. And I guess, I might tell you something, I was very aware of those kind of things because he tried to convince me at times also to participate in something like that, which I would never do in a million years. But I was even more aware of that because Al Ginsberg told me, just watch your back, okay? So I'm not blaming your father, but he lives in a different world, your father, okay?
Yeah.
He has a mind that didn't need to be punished, and he was a free spirit in a lot of ways.
Yes,
but he was like the rest of us. He's suffering from desire and suffering from aversion, right?
Yes.
Anyway, so nevertheless...
Well, and the relationship with Joanna was,
That was not
twisted.
good, no.
That was bad.
And it turned out this guy that was living with this guy Martin, you know that story? He's the same one who was busted in Kabul, and the backstory, he might have called the cops to say where they were. They waited for him at the airport.
He was the informant.
And then he was living in the house with us, with Joanna and me, and in this nice little house in Cayucas, around the beach. It was really great, okay? And my own little room, there's all kinds of great books there. And so I had plenty of time for myself. I just go there, I'll just read my files. And
wow, well, this is fantastic. We spent the majority of the podcast talking about this amazing story, so colorful. But just to
summate. Summate.
Summate, yeah. But just to sort of transition into the ending here, because we initially started off this conversation with your mystical journey and detaching from your established law career into India and Greece and Israel and all this. You found yourself with this amazing, wrapped up in the Timothy Leary saga. And wow, just amazing. But did that sort of catapult you back into your practice?
It did.
Yeah.
Now look, I started this organization in 1967 or 68 to legalize marijuana called CAMP, the Campaign to Abolish Marijuana Prohibition. I went back, so after that I moved from Studio City to the Malibu Mountains, and then I went back to practice on Beverly Drive, where I am again now after 38 years. I was in West Hollywood for 38 years. I'm back on Beverly Drive now.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, so anyway.
Holloway's gone.
Yeah. And meanwhile, I get a call from San Francisco inviting me to come up to meet with the people from Normal, from Washington, because I had this organization called CAMP, the Campaign to Abolish Marijuana Prohibition, and I touted this organization was helping bring people's awareness to legalization of marijuana. We had trucks with everything, had parties, we had a great time, it was wonderful. And so they invited me to go to San Francisco to meet with the heads of Normal, along with the first lawyers in San Francisco, and asked me if I'd be willing, like many people they invited had other organizations, to give them up, come under the umbrella of Normal, and I would be the director of Los Angeles Normal, which I have ever since been since 1973, okay? a matter of fact, I don't know what your father's trial was. Was it in 72? I forget.
72,
Yeah. And so 70, I became the director of NORML. Meanwhile, I've been pounding the pavement all those years to try to legalize it. You know, I'd have different events, and I would talk on. I've got press my whole career. Okay,
Yeah.
a lot of it had to do with my position on legalization. All right. Matter of fact, if you want to read some of my press, you look at the back of my guide, which is online. You hear my stories. Anyway, so I got back, and I was back into a legalization effort now with NORML, which is a national organization. We had Cal NORML as well, which was another strong organization. So I continued on the path to try to bring the attention to the public how insane these laws were. And that's been my story. And I've continued doing that. I ran for office several more times on the legalization platform. I ran for state assembly 2 more times. I ran for governor in 2012 in a recall election. And that was 134 people, and I came in like number 10 or something, or 11, and all the rest of them were real politicians. Then I ran for U.S. Congress in 2003 or something like that. I forget what, no, 2008.
Oh, I remember we had Bruce Margolin for Congress, was it? Up at our house, remember?
That was your dad gave me a party.
Yeah.
For when I ran for assembly at that time.
It was assembly, yeah. I remember the party, though.
Yeah, but Frank, okay, let me talk how to get back to your father, all right? So I kind of divorced myself from your father after that happened with all this stuff that went down.
Yeah.
The FBI would call me, would like to speak to you. I said, I got nothing to talk to you about. What do I want to talk to you for?
Right.
Then left me alone, okay? I had nothing to do with anything anyway. But anyway, so meanwhile, Ram Dass is putting on an event with Leary, your father, at the Greek Theater here in Hollywood, right? And I thought, well, if Ram Dass is cool with him, what do I have against your father? Nothing. I was just trying to be supportive of the people you turned on. And so I think that's along those times we got back together more or less. But then he called me up and said, look, I want to put on a party for you for your campaign for state assembly.
Right.
Which was very kind of him. And he really...
Early 90s.
Yeah, it was 19, this was 19, what year was this? 80-something probably, I don't know,
Okay.
85, 89, I don't remember, I got somewhere, maybe early 90s, you're probably right.
Okay.
I think it was 95, I think it was. No, before that.
Yeah, it was
anyway,
before that.
Anyway, so it was very nice of him, and he invited all of his friends, and he was very kind and very beautiful, and very appreciative still, and we had a good rapport.
Wow.
And then he would invite me, and I come up to my young kids a lot, and he was very ill at that time. By that time,
Yeah.
And we can go into that if you want to talk about.
No, that's another podcast. We're going to wrap it up now. We basically go for about an hour.
Okay, so let me finish the thing about my experiences with campaigns to legalize it.
Yep.
Okay, so I've continued those efforts, and now we finally broke some ice here. You want to talk about these new laws? Well, I got a lot to say about them, both good and not so good. Okay, and so we'll discuss those. If they want to know the laws, they go online, look at my guide. 420laws.com.
420laws.com.
And beyond that, I'll just say that right now in California, real quickly, we've legalized small quantities of marijuana.
Yep.
Do you want me to tell the story real quick? Okay. Prop 64 was passed last year, November 8th, okay? I remember I had a big party. LA Times was there. It was beautiful. The screen was showing. We passed, and then the screen turned freaking red. What the fuck is this? A map of America? It's all red? I couldn't believe the same night. It was like a bad dream, you know?
It was a weird
Trump
dream.
got in office, but that's beside the point. So Prop 64 passed to legalize marijuana. I support it because it legalized marijuana, okay? You couldn't throw out the baby with the bathwater. I mean,
wasn't perfect, but it was a start.
At least it took this, hopefully it's taken the stigma away, but I'm still fighting for that stigma, okay?
Yeah.
It's still there, big time. For example, right now my campaign has been to get on-site consumption locations for people to toke and joke and midnight smoke, all right? Because right now, in California, you can't smoke weed in public. You can't smoke in your apartment or your condo unless you get permission from your landlord. They don't object to it. Only place you can go is a residence. Not everybody has access to residence, right? So I've been pumping that up a lot, okay? And so I've been doing a lot of that work still. Matter of fact, on the 20th of December, we're having a party again. I have parties to try to bring people together here in Los Angeles. Everybody invited.
Yeah.
You know, it's a place called Hitman Cafe. I don't know if you know about the place or not. So 20th December at 7 o'clock. Please come join us.
December 20th, okay.
Yeah, it's an open deal. And so I just tried to, along the way, done many, many interviews, all right? From all kinds of publications and news stations and all that stuff over these years. I'm not the most articulate guy in the world, as you can see, but I've done my best to bring a responsible voice regarding why we should legalize it, and join with others in the campaigns, whether it be for other initiatives or the state, on the county and city levels, which you've had all kinds of issues with now, because each county and city has the autonomy to decide what licensing they'll allow and won't allow. So we're in that battle, you know. And so, but it's been a pleasure to be involved with this campaign. Right now, I feel like everybody thinks it's all because of me, you know. And I always say, who's that stupid guy that want to legalize marijuana and ruin my business? That's what I want to know. I keep asking these people. Judges ask me, I want to tell you one final thing.
Yeah.
Judges say to me, oh, Mr. Margolin, what's going to happen with your practice when you legalize marijuana? What are you going to do? He said, I'm going to try the stuff, Your Honor. Anyway.
Bruce Margolin, thank you, brother.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you for being such a good audience.